Hello, everyone, and welcome to the best and worst of Walt Disney World, brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Be sure to visit them on the web at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. If you like all of the content that you see here, by booking your next Disney vacation through Dreams, you are supporting us and helping us continue to create such of this many more of this type of content that you enjoy. So just think about it. Costs you nothing. I am your host, Ryno Clavin, and today I am joined by the one, the only, Jackie Gailey.
Hi, guys.
We're going to be doing what Craig and I did with Frozen Ever After. So we've selected an attraction, and now Jackie and I are just going to go through the best and worst of that attraction, starting with the queue all the way up to the attraction. The said attraction is, Jackie, why don't you tell us?
Dinosaur.
So Dinosaur is one of my favorite attractions at Walt Disney World. I'd say that Rise of the Resistance is probably my favorite now, but Dinosaur definitely has a soft spot in my heart. I love this attraction. Jackie, how do you feel about it?
Oh my gosh, I didn't think you were going to say that you loved it. I do not love it.
Yeah, okay, so this is going to be great.
I do not love it. Yeah, I don't. I'm surprised that you do, though.
I got a thing for dinosaurs and time travel, so it's like It meshes everything all together, and it's not a roller coaster, so it combines like three things I love, and I think that's why I like it so much. So why don't we just dive right in? We'll start with the exterior, the area of. So for those of you who don't know, Dinosaur is located in Dinoland, USA, in Animal Kingdom, and it's located. It feels kind of like shoved in the back corner over there. How do you feel about like the facade of the attraction, like the Dino Institute, the Iguanodon out front, sipping the water, and how do you feel? Do you feel like this lies in the best area, the worst area, or just kind of meh?
I feel kind of meh about it because Dinoland is super fun and carnival-ish and whimsical, and then you see the real, actual dinosaur, and I'm like, hey. It's kind of looming in the back there, and you're like,
yeah.
And so I'm kind of okay about it, but
I mean, it kind of looms. Now that's going to be our word of the show, I think. But I think for me, it does feel it's not. I'm not blown away by it. You know what I mean? It's a very like a nondescript building, which is fine because it's supposed to be the Dino Institute. And the Iguanodon is like fine, but my thing is that it's weird because the Iguanodon is based on a digitally animated dinosaur, while the rest of the dinosaurs that are kind of represented around there are supposed to be more like, this is the dinosaur. This is what he looks like, you know? What a dinosaur looks like, especially when you first come in. And what's really cool, what I think definitely deserves an area in the best, is off to the right when you walk toward the Dino Institute, is they have a replica of Sue, and Sue is one of the most complete. I know she was the most complete. I think they had found one that was a little more completed with like bone or like muscle tissue or something like that, but I could be just fantasizing one of the Michael Crichton novels I've read. But Sue is located in, I believe, Chicago. She's in one of the museums there, but it is one of the most complete T-Rex fossils that have ever been discovered. And so they've got this cool kind of replica of it out front, and sometimes there's a cast member there that will tell you that story. But I love that because I knew what it was, and if you don't know what it was, I still love that they could educate you about it. And I feel like that kind of fits in with Animal Kingdom really well right there too. But also I feel like that doesn't necessarily carry through a ton into the attraction. So let's step into the Dino Institute. So let's go in there. How do you feel about the interior where, the Carnotaurus is, and then they have the fossils that are around the side? What do you feel about that?
So that part of it I really like, actually, because it feels like you're in a museum, and it feels like you're just kind of checking things out, and it's mellow and it's not loud, and the dinosaurs aren't coming to life to bite you, and
It is very calming, isn't it? There's
Yeah.
like that music in the background, and then obviously it's narrated by Bill Nye the Science Guy. So I feel very like, when the lights dim and it's
Yeah.
like, and he's like, and he tells his story, and you're like, I want to listen to you.
Yes, like everything's gonna be okay, and
Yeah.
there's like this safety about it, and you're like, okay, this is good.
I would love to see this area kind of turned into something more akin to what's the area like Rafiki's Planet Watch, where how they have the veterinary area where they do the surgeries and
Yes.
that sort of stuff. I you know how that's like open, but you
Yeah.
can still look in the windows of stuff, and maybe that's what'll have to happen in the future with it. But
Sure.
if it utilized sort of like a queue, a digital queue or a virtual queue, excuse me, and then they made more interactive elements within that building, I think, to make it feel more like a science museum that you would go to when you were school. Not that it doesn't necessarily feel like a science museum, but
Yeah.
I'd love it if like somehow it could get a little more hands-on, like bring some of that boneyard aspect to it in there or something like that. So I'm also like in the middle. I don't hate it. I know you said you enjoy it, and I love the massive Carnotaurus in the center of the room and stuff. But it's kind of like it's one of those cues to me that I call it a lullaby cue, because it as I wait, like depending how long I have to wait in it, can depend how tired I get.
Yeah.
So if I'm in there too long, it doesn't match for me the intensity of the attraction or what's about to come. So it feels a little disjointed, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like so the first time I went on that attraction, I didn't know what to expect. Like the only thing that I knew about it was that some people compared it to the Indiana Jones attraction at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And that was all I knew about it. And so, we're in this mellow thing. We're looking at these dinosaur skeletons, this, pretty chill. So very much not what you get on the attraction. So it was like hey.
As soon as you're on the other side of a pre-show building, it's like the downstairs part of the Dino Institute doesn't match the upstairs, which I guess like that's where they'd be doing the experiment, and maybe that's like it's supposed to be this like reveal of it or something like that. But I have always thought, like, for me, it doesn't really, the attractions like story doesn't start until you get to the pre-show video. Which how do you feel about the pre-show video, Jackie?
So the pre-show video is kind of cool. I always think I like when attractions have a pre-show video, because I think it sort of puts you right in there. So if it kind of gives you an idea of what's coming and sort of what to expect. And I think the pre-show part is kind of cool. It's a little, it's kind of outdated like a lot of the pre-shows are, but it's got
this like, I think having like Felicia Richard in it, and then the other gentleman is Wallace Langham. I think he's on like CSI or something like that. But you're right. I know that feeling where you say it feels a little outdated, but it's got that. It reminds me almost of like the old Test Track video, or it's got that kind of almost air of goofiness to it.
Yes.
But like, I also feel like there's some parts of it, and maybe this is just me because my roommate used to he used to like reenact scenes from it in my apartment when I first moved to Florida. He would just approach the room and he would be like, "It seems I've arrived just in time.
It seems just in time to correct a little misstatement."
I think it's got these like great moments. Like somebody sent me a sticker too that had like the dinosaur puppet on it, and it says "Hello there." And so there's a couple of things. It rides this fun line. So for me, I like it, but I do also feel like the age of that type of a pre-show, the shuffle into a dark room and watch a theater, are definitely behind us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so too.
Well, it's hard too, I think, to get people to kind of pay attention to them.
Yeah.
More now, and like people have, with the age, of social media, things like that, people have become so much more aware of, what they're in line for. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but it becomes this whole thing where nobody's listening, and I feel bad because it's storytelling lost. And so I think the attractions that we found that kind of incorporate that into the part of the experience. You know, I hate to always bring it back to Rise of the Resistance, but Rise has an interesting, like, what would be a pre-show video room, but it's short, but the room is so themed, and the way those things are being told to you are so well themed that it doesn't feel like that. Whereas this is basically a projection on a blank wall, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So then we move out of this room and we are into what we talked about a second ago, the Dino Institute, going into the basement. Do you feel like there's always a distinct smell in here?
You know, I haven't ridden this attraction enough times to have noticed that, really, if I'm just being 100% honest, because,
I don't,
you know.
Yeah. I don't know if there is, and I've just made it up. Like I think like I expect one, and then there isn't one. I think it's one of those things. So, I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask the expert at Magic Candle Company, right?
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'll have to pay attention to that if anybody ever drags me on that.
we need YouTube needs to start having like a smell-o-vision or something where like maybe like a little circle kind of pops up in the bottom of the corner and it tells you like hints of lemongrass with what, you know, and so you kind of, you know what you're smelling. I don't know, because there's some things like the ET ride at Universal that has a very distinct smell that's like, I want that smell. But
interesting. See, I'm trying to think of what they would do, but I bet they could figure something out.
Well, I want to say I associate it with shaving cream, but that could just be because of Jurassic Park. I think that's honest to God. I think that is what it is. I don't think it actually smells like anything. I just think I've seen it. But if you are watching or listening to this and you want to let me know what you think it smells like, we would love to hear that in the comments of this video. Mm-hmm. And then this is where you board your attraction vehicle, you know, I like the Time Rovers are essentially, you know, people have said, like Jackie said earlier, that this is essentially, it's Indiana Jones, but dropped over here and rethemed. But I don't think it's one of those things where I would ever recognize this as Indiana Jones. But one of the things that does give it away is the fact that you are getting into a vehicle that is essentially the exact same vehicle. Like the exterior looks a little different, but it pulls up, and if you saw a photo next to the two of them, you're like, those came out of the same warehouse a second ago. You know?
That was the one and only thing that I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're saying. It's the same, you know, it's the same vehicle. Okay, got it.
But for me, in terms of like the ride vehicle, I feel like it leans to me on the better side of things, because I don't know. I feel like everywhere you have somewhere to hang on to. I like something about like you have very distinctly your own part of the seat. You're not sharing a bench with anybody, you know? And there's just, I also like how the ride vehicle goes. But so for me, even though it is kind of a repurposed ride vehicle, I like it. I think it leans on, I think it's one of the things that I do enjoy about the attraction is like strapping into this Time Rover that then feels like you're on this kind of off-road adventure. So that for me leans in the better side of things.
I do like I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all you. Go ahead.
I do like that part of it. I really do. That part of it, I was excited about getting in there, and you know, I was excited that when I first saw that it was the same kind of attraction or the same kind of attraction vehicle. I like how it kind of, you know, you feel like you're bumping around when you're going, and I like that part. So that was really fun to me too. I loved that. So So then you know the attraction begins, and you go through what I like to call the toaster of time. So you go through those like double doors, and it's like it starts like all these like screeching metallic sounds, and they're flashing the light. And now in the more recent years, they've added that like swirling. I don't know what they're called when you like put a light through a swirl of fog to make this like tunnel effect, but which I like, but I have heard people say that that's one of their least favorite parts because the sounds like grating on there, like they hate that sharp sound. Yes, you know? Like when your steak knife goes the wrong way on your plate.
Give me goosebumps. Yeah,
I hate that. Yeah.
So I get it, but at the same time, like that is one of my favorite little parts. It's not a pleasant sound, but I'm like, it's the part for me where I'm excited because we literally go from this like one area and then all of a sudden we're in what I think is the best room in the entire attraction. You go in and it's you're in the prehistoric era, and you've got these amazing dinosaur animatronics that are all kind of, well, on a good day, are all in motion.
Yeah.
You see the Stachyosaurus, and then there's the one that looks like the T-Rex that's kind of devouring what looks like a raptor. I forget all the names and stuff, but
Me too.
and there is a raptor in that room, and I think that room is just like beautifully decorated. So I do think this is where the attraction starts out really high for me. Like it's an awesome room.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, are you okay so far?
I'm okay so far.
eh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good so far. There's really only one part of this ride that I don't like. So when we get there.
Okay. So this ride over the years has gone through like multiple. They keep brightening it up inside, and I feel like the brighter it's been getting, the less integrity the story of the attraction, the less the ride seems to be fluidly holding together for me. Because I know Craig has spoken about it on the show a lot before, that there's a lot of times where you can see the walls of a blank room, and I didn't notice that until like recently, like within the last like year or two, and now it's like I can't unsee it, and it does feel lazy when you've come into this really like amazing room, and then it also does feel like the back half of the attraction, like the budget might have dropped out, because it feels like it's a lot of very dark sceneries only lit for one specific part.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. And I don't like it when they do that, because I feel like it wouldn't be too much extra effort to
get some moss from Michael's, throw it up there.
Right. I mean, just kind of cover that up. And, like Walt Disney wouldn't have liked that kind of stuff. He wouldn't let that sort of stuff stick out, because we all know how picky he was about everything. So, and rightly so. And so when you, like, sometimes I won't notice things like that, but if somebody points it out to me, like you, I can't ever unsee it. That's the only thing I see. And it's like, oh, why'd you have to tell me that?
Yeah, it is one of the unfortunate things. So this is, this is also the point in the ride where it does get dark for a while, like we said, and then it does start taking a lot of these drastic like twists and turns, and there's like the circular area that you kind of go around, and then you go down this hill, and there's like the I think it's pterodactyl that's like flying at you, right? And then the Compsognathus are like jumping off of the thing, which used to be, I don't know if you remember, but it used to be like 5 or 6 like little maquettes of them, and the light would flash like one after the other to make it look like they had just like jumped to their doom or something. But and then they changed it to that like projection wall,
Yeah. I liked it better the older way.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
it felt consistent, right?
Yeah, it did. And this was the part where I was getting like, oh gosh, this is dark and super loud and slightly scary. And I know they're not real, but I'm scared.
I'm like you. I can't help but think of the line in Jurassic Park when Ian Malcolm said, or I don't know if it was Ian that says it, but he says like, yeah, but if Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, John, the pirates don't eat the tourists. And I think, what if we break down in this ride?
Oh my gosh.
What happens here,
and those movies scared me. Those Jurassic Park films, oh my word. I was scared of those. So, yeah.
I do think there are a couple of best moments after this though, because I think the Carnotaurus itself is one of the best moments of the attraction, because like the first time you see him and he roars, there's a lot like the skin and the neck moves a lot and everything, so it looks like it has this real sense of, whether you are very aware it's fake or not, it's still this giant kind of looming animatronic that is blaring the sound at you, and I always get like, that's when my nerves start going,
Yeah, same here. That's the one.
And then there's a part where it's like pitch black and the Jeep breaks down. And I think this is one of the best parts in an attraction at Disney World, actually. But it's where you can see the Carnotaurus like in the background. And then they're like, and he's roaring. And you're like, okay, he's back there. I think it's the part that like you don't expect him, that he moves forward. So he like it looks like he's starting to run after the car. And that was one of those moments in that ride where like I still remember that feeling of like, it's like goosebumps, but then like a cold sweat happens really quick where you just got just nervous enough.
Yes, because your car is not moving and that is.
Right.
And what's going to happen?
Right. And so I think, and then that's immediately followed by the photo op where it's his full body where he's caught up to you and he roars and the car stays still just long enough that you are just like, it's like you expect it to move and then it doesn't, but then it does right after that. So it's like a double hit right there. But I don't know. That's one of my favorite photo ops though too, because I love what people look like on that photo.
That is so funny. I just can't believe that you love that because I that is the part that just terrifies me.
That's where you're out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so my picture, the couple of times I've ridden that, are the most special because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Yeah. I love it's one of those photos where I think I very specifically have to go to the desk and be like, can you double check to make sure this is scanned into my ticket now? Because you used to be able to see it and then you can't see it unless you really go ask for it now. So that's kind of a bummer. But and then that brings your attraction kind of the culmination where the iguanodon that you've been searching for is actually there helping you the whole time. He's holding up the log. And I do think there's a cool effect on him at this point too, because they kind of, this wasn't always there, but or at least I don't think it was always there, but it has this like green netting that looks like it's over him, like the computer is scanning him.
Oh yeah.
I always think that's a cool effect.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I often forget until I'm like actually in the moment and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is a nice touch. I think like it's a nice thing, but and then you're met with your like final scare, which always kind of gets me too. I don't know about you, but the what would be the boulder dropping, but is the and then the head comes out.
Yep.
Like. I always think it's going to come out just a little too far. I don't know.
And you lean away because it's like, whoa.
Yeah. And then it drops you down, and then that's it, and then the attractions, and they're like, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. Oh, you made it. And you're like, okay, all right. It kind of ends like that, but I think I don't mind all of the dark hallways in the attraction, but I do see what people are saying about when that's kind of one of the worst parts of the attraction. And I don't know. You tell me, Jackie, what do you think are the worst parts for you? Like you said.
So the part where it starts getting real loud and the dinosaur, basically it's around where that photo op is. It's just before that when everything just starts really going and things are jumping out at you. Things are loud. You're jerking around and then your car stops, your vehicle stops just enough to really scare the living daylights out of you.
Yeah.
That's the part. And then the rest of it, I'm like in a fog because I'm really freaked out. I'm like, what's going to happen?
It'll toss you like a rag doll. That's what I always say. Like, you know,
you have to hold on for dear life.
I see. For me, the reason why I think I enjoy that stuff is more because I was always too afraid to go on like roller coasters and things. So, for me, it feels like, okay, well, this is the thing that's like the ultimate excitement, and this is why I enjoy that aspect of it so much. And like I said, I do think the Carnotaurus running through the woods or the, I don't know what it is, prehistoric forest, like is kind of one of the cooler effects in the attraction. But yeah. And then, you kind of just over and you're back kind of closer to where you start, actually right where you started, right? Because you have to wait for the people to get out.
Yes.
So,
yep.
And then you go up the stairs and you're in a gift shop and it kind of all is like, that's where I feel like, again, the building itself, like what you experience, I wish more of the building, I think, was like the downstairs. Like more of it was like that kind of cool scientific, like, machinery everywhere. And like, that you were going into this kind of laboratory more than just like being like, oh, it's just a museum,
Right, because then at least you would feel like you were sort of in a science experiment maybe. Like if you were seeing that, it would kind of put you in a different place other than being in a quiet museum where you feel like you're kind of learning something.
Yeah.
But if you're in the scientific part of it, I feel like I like that. I feel like if it was more of that, then you would feel like you were like part of some experiment that went haywire.
Well, it'd be kind of cool if there was more about what they were doing with the time travel before you got in the room. If they had like fake. So they had all the fossils on display. Like, what if it was some sort of like, oh, well, this was the first time we experimented with time travel. Here start. So it was kind of like a couple of demonstrations or like visual aids that have to do with what time traveling was. You know what I mean? Like if there was some of it so like you knew that's why you were at the Dino Institute. Otherwise, you've kind of just wandered into part of the wing that you weren't supposed to be in, like some sort of Robert Langdon novel or something. So I don't know, but
yes.
No, so
which is also kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, I could see it's definitely like where I get it, but I also, I get what you said earlier when we started too about how the Institute feels a little off for you too, because you've got the carnival, like kitschy area out there and like the dig site. And then where you eat, those kind of all go together. And then the Institute feels, it feels a little like you've gone somewhere else, I guess. Again,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's how it feels to me too. It feels completely just different from that whole area. Like, so, but I don't dislike that part of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just, the first time I was really freaked out after going on it. I'm kind of like you as far as the roller coasters go. Like, I'm not terribly into roller coasters. So, I like this one better than, like Expedition Everest or something, So, but at the same time, the scary factor part is the thing for me. But I've been easily convinced. Well, I don't know about easily, but sort of easily convinced to go on it again because of all of the other aspects of the attraction. So it'll
be funny to kind of see your experience of you going on it again, and then I imagine you just coming off and going, nope.
Nope. There's a reason I haven't been on that in 5 years.
Well, there you go, guys. That is Jackie and I's walkthrough of Dinosaur at Animal Kingdom Park and what we feel like are some of the best and the worst parts of the attraction. If you want to let us know what some of the best and the worst parts of what you feel like this attraction has to offer, please let us know in the comments. Like we've said, let us know wherever you feel like you want to let us know. That'd be great. And again, if you are booking your next Disney vacation, please consider using Dreams Unlimited Travel. Like we said earlier, it doesn't cost you a thing and it helps support the show. So we appreciate that. Jackie, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I really appreciated it.
Thank you for having me on. This was fun.
Anytime. It was great. Well, that'll do it for this episode, but we'll be back for another episode of the best and worst of Walt Disney World. Bye, everyone.